Welcome! Today we'll explore what happens if a star gets too close to a black hole. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enjoy. Out in the vast expanse of space, where the unimaginable happens daily, one event stands out above all others. The dance between a star and a black hole. Imagine a massive, glowing star, its brilliance lighting up the cosmos, slowly being pulled towards the dark abyss of a black hole. At first, the star's movements are calm, but then something starts to change. The gravitational pull of the black hole grows stronger, tugging at the star with invisible fingers, stretching it out like a piece of taffy. The star doesn't know it yet, but it's about to face its ultimate end. As it draws closer, the star begins to lose its shape, pulled into a long, thin stream of gas and light. This is the point of no return. The star is being ripped apart, and there's nothing that can stop it. Its outer layers are violently torn away, creating an explosion of energy that can be seen across galaxies. The core, however, continues its journey toward the black hole, doomed to disappear into its event horizon. It's a moment of pure chaos, a spectacle of destruction and creation all at once. This is the fate of stars that venture too close to the most dangerous forces in the universe. But what exactly happens during this catastrophic event? Let's find out. As the star inches closer to the black hole, the unimaginable force of gravity continues to stretch it, transforming it into a glowing string of gas and matter. This process, called spaghettification, is a powerful reminder of the immense forces at play in space. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. Somewhere in the depths of a nearby research station, a team of scientists has been monitoring this exact star, their observations fueling their research into the mysteries of black holes. Among them is Dr. Alara Vasquez, a brilliant astrophysicist, who has dedicated her career to unraveling the secrets of these cosmic monsters. The mission is simple in theory. Study the event from a safe distance, gather data, and learn as much as possible about the forces that govern these phenomena. But something unexpected is happening. Dr. Vasquez's team is beginning to notice strange anomalies in their data. Their instruments are picking up unusual gravitational waves, signals that suggest something is interfering with the black hole's behavior. It's not just the star being pulled in. Something else, something larger, is at play. And it seems to be heading straight for them. As the black hole continues its feast, Dr. Vasquez must make a critical decision. Stay and continue, gathering data or abandon the mission before it's too late. The station is located in a vulnerable spot, directly in the path of the black hole's growing influence. If they don't act soon, they could find themselves trapped in its gravitational grip, pulled into the abyss alongside the star. The stakes couldn't be higher. The station's survival depends on the team's ability to outsmart the very forces they've spent their lives studying. But Alara is faced with a personal dilemma. She's not only racing against time to save her team, but also fighting against her own fear of what could happen if they fail. The black hole, indifferent and unstoppable, looms large, a reminder that in space, no one can hear you scream. Dr. Vasquez stood before the large holographic display, her hands shaking as she adjusted the controls. The gravitational waves on the monitor had intensified, now showing distinct ripples in the fabric of space-time. It was clear, whatever anomaly they had been tracking was now out of control. She turned to the other scientists in the room, their faces drawn and tense. Alara, one of her colleagues, Dr. Raj Patel, spoke up, his voice tight with anxiety. If this continues, the station's core will be destabilized. We need to evacuate now. Alara glanced at the map on the screen. The black hole had begun to affect the space around it in unpredictable ways. Small distortions were expanding outward, pulling asteroids and debris into its grasp, creating a deadly ring of chaos. If they didn't leave soon, they'd be caught in it. But she couldn't let go of the research. They were on the verge of understanding something unprecedented. The anomaly wasn't just a black hole's feast. It was interacting with the space around it in ways no one had predicted. If they could capture this data, it would change everything humanity understood about gravity, space-time, and the universe itself. We don't have the time, Alara replied, her voice firm but strained. We need to run more tests, just one more. One more test could kill us all. Dr. Patel shot back. You're thinking about the data, but we're talking about our lives here. Her pulse quickened. He was right. But Alara's drive was too strong. She had spent her entire career studying black holes, and this was the moment she had dreamed of. The one chance to unlock the answers that had eluded scientists for decades. How could she walk away now, knowing that the information they were about to collect could save lives in the future? The risk was high, but so was the reward. I know, Alara finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But we're this, close to something huge, Raj. We can't turn back now. I won't let all this work go to waste. Raj's expression softened for a moment, but his concern was still clear. You're not thinking straight. This is bigger than one experiment. You need to be a leader now, not just a scientist. She swallowed, her gaze drifting to the screen again. The distortions were growing larger by the minute, and the station's alarms began blaring, warning them of the impending collapse. It was clear they couldn't stay any longer, but how could she give up now? Suddenly, the station shook violently, throwing everyone off balance. The lights flickered, and a high-pitched whine echoed through the walls as the hull groaned under the strain. The gravitational waves were hitting them directly now. We're out of time, Raj yelled. We need to go, now! In that instant, the weight of responsibility crashed down on Alara. She could feel the pressure of the decision, like the force of gravity itself bearing down on her. The stakes had changed. It wasn't just about the research anymore. It was about the safety of her team, her friends. They had trusted her to lead them, and now it was time to make a choice. Without hesitation, Alara slammed her hand on the emergency evacuation button. The station's doors slid open, and everyone scrambled toward the escape pods. But as Alara made her way to the hatch, a final thought struck her. They were not out of danger yet. The black hole's pull was relentless. The escape pods might not even make it out in time. Raj, send out a distress signal, she said, trying to remain calm. Tell command we might need backup. We're not leaving without making it out of this alive. The journey to the escape pods felt like an eternity. The gravitational forces were throwing objects around, and alarms continued to blare in the background. But Alara pushed forward, one step at a time, her heart pounding in her chest. The black hole loomed ever closer, its immense presence pressing down on them. The station was falling apart around them, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something else was going wrong. Raj, what's the status of the pods? She called out over the comms. They're launching, but the gravitational waves are messing with the trajectory. Raj's voice crackled in her earpiece. We're not going to make it at this rate. The trajectory's off by at least 30 degrees. Alara's mind raced. If they didn't correct the course, they would end up caught in the black hole's event horizon. She couldn't let that happen, not now. Get ready to recalibrate the pods manually, she ordered, her voice sharp. We can't trust the automatic systems. If we don't fix this now, we're done. As they entered the control room, Alara could see the massive black hole looming on the monitors, its pull growing stronger by the second. Time was running out, and the weight of the decision, of their survival, pressed heavily on her shoulders. The team looked to her, their eyes filled with fear, but also trust. They were counting on her to get them through this. The pod was their only chance. She had to make sure they got it right. But as she watched the black hole grow larger on the screen, Alara couldn't shake the thought that they might already be too late. The escape pods had launched, but the violent pull of the black hole's gravity made their trajectory a deadly gamble. Alara's heart hammered in her chest as she watched the pod's coordinates on the monitor. The ship's emergency thrusters were struggling against the pull, but it wasn't enough. The numbers on the screen blinked ominously. They were heading straight for the event horizon. Come on, she muttered under her breath, fingers flying over the recalibration controls. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she watched the distance to the black hole shrink with terrifying speed. We're not going to make it, Raj's voice came through the comms, heavy with dread. The velocity's too high. We're caught in its grasp, Alara. We can't escape. No, she snapped, a fire igniting in her chest. We will make it. I won't let you all die here. The room was suffocating as the station's walls groaned, and the violent shakes became more frequent. She could feel the energy of the black hole, like an unseen force pressing on her from all sides. She had never felt fear like this before. Not in her years of studying cosmic forces, not in all the times she had come close to danger. But now, in this moment, she was no longer a scientist. She was a leader, fighting to save her team. And her own life was on the line too. Alara's hands trembled as she recalibrated the pods one last time, her thoughts blurred. Too much was happening too fast. The black hole was too close. The time dilation was affecting the ship's systems, making it harder for her to focus. Every moment that passed felt like an eternity. Suddenly, a warning blared through the station. Warning! Approaching event horizon. All escape pods will be crushed within 1 minute. Abort launch. No, she whispered. Please. No. The darkness outside the station was almost complete. The stars had disappeared, consumed by the black hole's all-encompassing pull. The escape pod's control systems were failing. Desperation clutched at Alara's chest. Every fiber of her being screamed for a solution, a way out. But there was no miracle waiting for her, no technology, no trick to escape the event horizon. A surge of energy from the pod's thrusters threw her backward. The lights flickered and the monitors blinked out. The gravitational wave passed through the station, and for a moment, Alara felt herself falling, as though time had slowed. Everything blurred. The entire universe seemed to be collapsing inward, on itself, folding under the black hole's power. She clutched the panel in front of her, feeling the weight of every decision she had made, the weight of her failure, of her inability to save everyone. Just as the pod neared the point of no return, the station's backup power kicked in, lights flaring to life in an instant. The pod jolted forward, the emergency thrusters pushing them at a near impossible speed. It was a last-ditch attempt, a gamble. And then, the impossible happened. The pod's trajectory shifted slightly, but enough to steer them out of the black hole's immediate reach. Alara could see it on the monitor, a change in direction, however small, but it was enough to give them a fighting chance. We're out, Raj breathed in disbelief. We're alive. Alara's body went limp, her heart racing, her breaths shallow. It wasn't over yet, but they had a chance. She leaned back in the seat, feeling the weight of the last few minutes crashing down on her. The black hole was still there, its immense presence hanging over them like a shadow, but for now, they were safe. The stakes had never been higher, and yet, in the fleeting moment that followed, Alara allowed herself a brief breath of relief. They had made it, but as she looked out at the swirling darkness behind them, she knew it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a far greater mystery. As the escape pod coasted away from the black hole's terrifying grip, Alara allowed herself a moment of stillness. The gravitational waves that had once rocked the station and the pod began to fade into the distance. Slowly, the stars reappeared, their distant light twinkling like forgotten beacons guiding them back to safety. But the journey was far from over. The crew sat in silence, their eyes wide, each of them processing the chaos they had just escaped. Raj, who had once questioned her decisions, now sat beside her, his expression filled with a mixture of relief and awe. "We made it," he said softly, his voice still shaky. "We actually made it." Alara nodded, but said nothing. She stared out the small viewport, her thoughts consumed by the near catastrophe they'd just survived. They were alive, yes, but the mission wasn't over. The black hole's anomaly, the mysterious signal, it was all still unresolved. The forces they had encountered were beyond anything she had ever studied, and the questions it raised weighed heavily on her. "Dr. Vasquez," Raj's voice broke through her thoughts. "What happens now?" She glanced at him, then back to the dark expanse before them. Now, we go back. We report what happened, but we're not done. There's something out there, something we didn't understand." Her voice grew more determined. "I don't know what it is, but I'll find out." Her team had seen her as a scientist, a leader, someone who sought knowledge at any cost. But now they saw something else in her. a sense of responsibility for their lives, for the risks they had taken. They had survived, not just because of her intellect, but because of her courage and her resolve to never give up. It was that inner strength that had carried them through the most perilous situation of their lives. Ilara had come to a profound realization. Knowledge could push boundaries, but wisdom came from knowing when to stop, when to trust in the unknown, and when to make the hard decisions. She had crossed a line between theory and survival, between ambition and sacrifice, and it had changed her forever. As the pod slowly drifted towards the nearest safe station, Ilara took a deep breath. There were no easy answers, and the universe was still full of mysteries. But one thing was certain: this was just the beginning. The stars twinkled ahead, endless and full of promise. And though she had seen the darkness firsthand, Ilara Vasquez knew she was ready for whatever came next. As the pod finally docked at the station, Ilara leaned back in her seat, exhaustion creeping into her bones. The adrenaline that had driven her through the past few hours was beginning to fade, and in its place was a quiet sense of awe, both for the resilience of her team and for the vastness of the universe they had just brushed against. They had survived the unimaginable, and yet something deep inside her told her this encounter was only a prelude. She turned to Raj, who had fallen silent beside her. His eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, words weren't necessary. They both understood. Their world had changed in a way they couldn't fully comprehend, and they would never be the same again. As the crew began to disembark, Ilara lingered behind, staring out at the vast blackness of space. The black hole, now just a distant memory, still loomed in her mind, its pull not just physical, but philosophical. What else lay out there, hidden in the vast unknown? What other forces, far beyond their understanding, could shake the very fabric of existence? She knew the answer wasn't simple. It never was. And yet, the pursuit of answers, of truth, was her life's work. It was a dangerous path, one that could take her places she wasn't ready for, but it was a path she had chosen long ago. Ilara took one last deep breath, feeling the weight of everything she had experienced. The universe was full of mysteries. Some might be more terrifying than she could imagine, but they were hers to explore. For now, though, she had survived. And that, in itself, was enough.